All right. I know I'm late. I apologize, but here we are. Game time, if you will. Life sometimes gets the best of you, but regardless, we're here. Saturday. What's even today's date? April the 23rd. Back talking a little live bases. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. If you were here for a little longer, you're right, Greg. Holden is in big fucking trouble. I'm just kidding. No, but all in all, exciting slate today, right? Always exciting the day after DeGrom finally gets a win, right? Anybody who's been laying 300 finally got satisfied with a win. So fun slate today overall. I'll try to get through each game, I guess, briefly, and I'll give you, some little tidbits here and there throughout. Quick shout out to folks in the chat. Looks like Chwadi is here. AJ, IWD Liquidators, or is that an L? I think I. Awesome. Late on top of late. I mean, mistakes happen. Life happens. But either way, excited to dive in here, and I'll give you guys a best bet as well. All right, so I guess without further ado, considering I'm already 20 minutes late, LOL. Let's just dive right in. So first game, I guess I could do these in time order, or I could be like Holden and just kind of go all over the place. Holden, I hope you're watching. Boston, Seattle. Okay, Nathan Eovaldi, Chris Flexen. Now, Flexen's a kid I like. You look at some of his advanced numbers, and he's better than he's pitched. And he's actually not that he's pitched that bad anyway, but he's better than he's looked. The big thing for me is Boston has so many home run bats. It's so scary betting against this team. Much like for the on the Twins end as well, similar team in that regard. So in a spot like this, I'd almost want to grab the 1.5 with Seattle, but I'm a little deterred. Eovaldi's looked good. His advanced stuff looks good. So it's kind of kept me away. The line's fair. The total's fair at 9. Look, I know Joey Work banged his Seattle team total over yesterday. And maybe you think about going back to the well at 4, but this is not a spot I want. There's a ton of games today. This is not a spot I really like anything in. Again, I'm a flex and truther, if you will. So I'm always going to lean spots like him in games like this where you're going to get an extra 1.5 at a fair price, but not a spot I like or I want to target by any means. Detroit, Kansas City. So this game's seen some decent steam in favor of the under. I saw 7.5 poke, but it looks like it poked back up. So Brady Singer's been really good, and Matt Boyd. People forget how good Matt Boyd was before he wasn't. Like, he had a really good year. I want to say it was 2018, maybe 2017, before he became a complete gas can. So the numbers here at 2.03 for his ERA, his advanced stuff is about 3, so it's not like he's been getting lucky with that. Brady Singer, his ERAs, his advanced stuff is even better than his 3.77. So I get the love. Royals are hitting though. They definitely have guys that can mash lefties, but man, that was tilting watching them against Robbie Ray last Sunday with all the opportunities they had and couldn't cash in. So I don't mind. So Travis brings up a question. The Royals own Matt Boyd. Now I'll tell you this, Travis, I am by no means a BVP truther. I know a lot of people are, and I don't. All I'm saying is like pitchers make mechanical changes to their delivery. Pitchers throw harder. They throw slower over their career. Pitchers become better at locating over their career. Maybe they get a little worse at locating. So like you look at BVP numbers that spread out over 8-year samples, and it's like, people get all like, oh, this dude crushes this pitcher or these guys crush this pitcher. But like this version of Matthew Boyd has been a different version. Now, I'm not saying he's going to come out here and go 7 shutout, because I do lean the Royals to score today. But, I didn't love it enough. Again, call it, if you're looking for a true spot for me, I'd go KC first 5. I think Singer's been really good. But it's not not another spot I really want to jump on or jump aboard. And again, I could care less if every guy from Kansas City is hitting 800 against Matthew Boyd. I'm not a BVP guy. I over time, I feel like that's more or less a money pit. Like people will like justify it when it's right, but like forget all the times BVPs like burn them. To me, it's a meatless stat, if you will. Okay. Maybe a little relevance in DFS if you got like super cheap price guys and they got good numbers, but we're at the top of the order. But either way, not a BVP truther personally. Again, not against anybody that does it. It's just not my thing. All right, so Minnesota, Pittsburgh. This is a juicy spot. So I just want to see what these lines have updated to, and I'll mention the juicy spot in a moment. So Michael Pineda against Trevor Cahill. Now, Trevor Cahill, I feel like I talk him up a little too much on these shows. I want to be clear. I don't think Trevor Cahill's a great pitcher. He's just not as bad as his 9 ERA. Because I think last week I was like, yeah, Cahill's advanced stuff looks good, and there's no reason to jump on board with bats against him. But I mean, so look, the dude's hanging a 9.69 ERA, right? But his FIP's 3.18, his xFIP's 2.66. Like, this dude's getting pretty unlucky. And I hate to sound like a broken record with Cahill, but his numbers, if he continues pitching how he is, his numbers are going to progress to a median or to the mean, if you will. But he's not so much my target here. So my target's actually Pittsburgh's bats. Hold on one second. So looks like it's 230 now. I'm just looking at what the team total looks like. Okay, so I would assume BetMGM has this at 2.5. As their team total, or has a team total 2.5 at Fair Vig, depending what their line is. If you can get 2.5, and I'm looking for lines wasting time here. If you can get 2.5 for the Pirates, clear my camera here. If you can get 2.5 with the Pirates, I really like that over for today. Now, it's not my best bet. If the Vig, well, let me tell you something. If the Vig's like -115, it will be. That's what I'm trying to check. So if you have your lines open, if you see BetMGM has 2.5 for a team total for Pittsburgh, to me, it's an auto bet. And it's an auto bet for a few different reasons. Now I still see 225. So I presume this is not going to be -110. So this is, how many runs will Pittsburgh score? So it's -135, which isn't as favorable. Call it a really strong lean from me. Pittsburgh over 2.5 runs. You can even split it. Like you can go 2.5, 3.5, 3.5 dog money. The reason why I like it. So first of all, J.A. Happ must have shoved a complete horseshoe up his ass in yesterday's start. There's nothing against J.A. Happ. You look at the advanced stuff. I mean, the dude had like an xFIP yesterday of 5, and he basically threw a no-hitter. So the dude was getting rockets hit off him. In Pittsburgh, I know Pineda's been good, but his advanced stuff is definitely not an ERA of 1. That's for sure. So I think the Pirates, of course, are a tough team to want to back, to think they're going to score runs. But if you can get 2.5, especially as this game gets closer to close, at -120, if more Twins money comes in or more under money, this is a favorable under spot. It's going to be freezing cold, right? 36 degrees. But yeah, if you can get it at a decent fair vig, I like that. I think that the Pirates did not look nearly as bad as the one hit that they showed yesterday. There was a lot of hard hit balls that found gloves. And I just think that they do a little more against Pineda today, and 2.5 is a fair number, or a favorable number at that, if you can get it at decent vig. So that's a spot I like. So I guess we will move on. The Cardinals versus the Reds. John Gant, my boy, versus Wade Miley, not my boy. So you're seeing a line here, -114. Now, when I say John Gant's my boy, the dude has severe walking concerns, like a little way too many walking concerns. So Cincinnati, assuming they're patient, will definitely get their opportunities. John Gant has been a borderline magician with him wiggling himself out of certain jams. I think he's been either bases loaded or second and third 3 different times this year and hasn't given up a run in those spots with no outs. So Wade Miley, though, had a good year in Milwaukee a few years back, and then his good year in Houston when he was at home. He basically had a huge home road splits. But, Wade Miley now draws a Cardinals lineup filled with right-handed bats. This is a scary spot to want to think about backing Wade Miley. You could, with the way this line's moved down a bit, and you could argue for Cardinals team total, it's probably like 4-ish, 4.5. It's definitely over 4, but it's probably like 4.5 at dog money. You could maybe split it 3.5, 4.5. I don't mind the Cardinals here to get runs for obvious reasons with Wade Miley on the bump. Gant, though, I guess when you look at it that way, I probably lean the over game because Gant's going to get himself into jams. The dude always does. I like him because he avoids so much hard contact. but he is consistently in trouble. And that's a scary thing when you're wanting to back a team in a presumably close game throughout. The Cardinals' pen hasn't exactly been that great either. So, tough spot for me overall. And I know it's a perfect storm for me, a guy I like versus a guy I don't like. But I do know, what John Gant's issues are. And Cincinnati can be a patient team at the dish. So they're going to stay away from me. But, call it a lean on the over at 8 for the game. Cubs, Brewers. Did I miss any games? Any other games? No. Cubs, Brewers. Alzolay, if I'm pronouncing that right, versus Peralta. Peralta's K rate this season has just been astronomical. He's like, dare I say, in the DeGrom conversation with K rate. But look, we know what Freddie Peralta is, right? The dude can be a gas can at times, which is why he's not an elite pitcher yet. Now, granted, he could take the next step in his career this season because he's got the stuff too. He's just like, it's almost like he's got too good of stuff. He can't control it at times, gets a little wild, and definitely gives up the home run ball. This line's seen some decent movement in favor of the Cubs, and why not, right? The Cubs are absolutely smashing the seams off the baseball. You look at what this team's done over the last few games, and they've had, multiple 10-run games. They haven't scored less than 3 runs in 6 or 7 straight games. They're hitting, and we know they have a bunch of power bats, and when they're swinging the sticks right, they're a tough team to want to fade. So I get it that Freddie Peralta might be a popular pick for some, maybe. Obviously people like him, and he's a sexy pitcher, if you will, quote unquote, with all the strikeouts. But I think it's going to take me a little more starts for Freddie Peralta to prove to me that he's this new version of himself, and I just don't buy it yet. Then again, I'm not an Alzolay guy either. It's not like he's a great arm. Now his numbers should begin to regress as well, or progress to a mean, because he's not as bad as his numbers indicate at 6.10 ERA surface. But overall, look, you'd be crazy to fade the Cubs right now with how they're hitting. That's just my opinion. But with that said, Freddie Peralta continues to throw the way he's been. You should be fine. Back in the Brewers. But for me, I'd lean the Cubs money line or first 5. I'm not in love with the Cubs bullpen. I know they made some decent improvements, but nothing major for me. I would lean Cubs first 5 just because they've been absolutely smashing the seams off the ball, and I think they might get to Peralta early. And Alzolay's not so much due for a good start, but his advanced stuff says he's better than how he's looked. And there's going to be a little poor weather in Wrigley. This isn't exactly a wind blowing out type of day over there, so not so much to love in that one. Mets Nationals. So Stroman, Joe Ross. A tale of two sides, right? Do you trust the Joe Ross you've seen the first few games, or did Joe Ross get back to the real Joe Ross in his last start? It's tough to say overall. I've liked what I've seen from Joe Ross, though. I know they had the bad start recently, but I've actually liked what I've seen from him. And Stroman, I am the exact opposite of a Marcus Stroman guy. I think when he's not getting ground balls, he's a terrible pitcher. And he doesn't strike out anybody, so goes back to it again. When he's not getting ground balls, he's terrible. And I know DeGrom had the big start yesterday, and you can get plus 164 with Ross. I think you get a better start from Ross in this start. So I'm seeing they're hanging at 165. You could take the half run first 5. I think the Nats get to Stroman a bit early. It's just going to be a matter of if Joe Ross bounces back properly. I'm not in love with the Mets offense by any means. I know they had a decent game yesterday, but again, what does that really mean? Because that team's a little Jekyll and Hyde. Hey, Chuck, I haven't gotten to the Yankees game yet. I'm just going in time order, but I'll get to it. That's a big game. Ajita. For me in the Mets-Nats games, I'll lean the half run, taking it first 5 with Ross. You can even take full game, run and a half if it's decent value for you. But again, I'm not a Stroman guy. I'm not saying he's not going to pitch well today. He might, but I've never really been a Stroman guy. He doesn't eat up innings. He's by no means an innings eater, and he relies on a ton of ground balls. And the Nats have a bunch of guys that can hit it out. So I definitely lean the Nats in that spot. Okay, so Astros Angels. Odorizzi and Canning. Now, Canning is a guy I happen to like a lot. I think he's a lot better than he's looked in his career. Still a young kid, though. But Odorizzi, I think at this point we kind of know what he is. With that in mind, sure, I would lean the Angels. I think the Angels, first of all, are live to score runs today and make their team total live. Because, again, I am by no means an Odorizzi guy for in any facet. Now, the 10.57 ERA is a little egregious for him because his advanced stuff says he's better than that. But I think overall for his career, he's 4.5, ERA dude who had a few decent seasons, but again, nothing amazing by any means. And you could look at these two ERAs and think, oh, well, I'll just blindly bet this game over. But 8.5, it's a decent number for that park when it's not warm or not super warm. So I'll lay off the total. Lean for me though, or slight, very, very slight lean, because I'm looking at this. The team total for the Angels should be like a flat 4, maybe. Yeah, it should be like a flat 4 at 110. I would lean that over, but yeah, not a bet I'm going to make by any means. Okay, next game up. Oh, Yankees-Indians. So Bieber Cole. Now, why I find this game interesting. So if you guys remember, one of the solo plays I gave out about a week or two ago was a first 5 under at, I want to say it was 3.5. It might have been 4. It was 4, I think, minus 120 when Giolito was versing Bieber. And I said to you guys that the line probably should have been 7. They opened at 7.5 and it ended up getting close to 7 anyway. This time the books weren't going to make the same mistake twice. So Garrett Cole, they open up a 6.5 total, and now I'm even starting to see some 6. The weird thing for me, so the Yankees are super streaky, right? And the Yankees finally are starting to get those bats going. Now they draw Bieber, who's definitely one of the smarter pitchers in the game, and has some of the best stuff in the game, especially on the AL side. It would be tough for me to want to bet Cleveland in this spot. Now Cleveland could win, of course, anytime Bieber starts, they could win. And Bieber's, I'd argue, has looked better than Cole this year, despite how good Cole's looked. Both guys have looked really good. This game's in Cleveland, and it's going to be semi-warm. I don't want to say warm, but about 60 degrees, 65 degrees. For me, overall, I get a lot of people might like to lean the over-under. I personally, I don't think you could do much wrong going Yankees under their team total here. So their team total, they're a minus 120 favorites. So their team total is likely 3.5. It's probably like minus 110-ish. That would be my angle for this game. I know that the Yankees have been hitting, and it's hard to kind of fade a team that's kind of finding home run life. But Bieber's that type of guy that can slow him down. I don't love the play, and I don't want to jump in front of the Yankees while they're starting to hit again. So, but overall, if you're looking for a spot for me, I do like the Yanks under their team total at 3.5 as a lean. Okay, this brings me to my best bet. Okay, so Tampa Bay hosts Toronto. Now, you guys, if you watch the Sunday show, you should know that I by no means like anything that Robbie Ray is doing these days. I know that you look at him and it's an 0-1 and a 1.8 ERA, but this dude, regression's coming. Okay, I don't know if it's going to be today. Don't know if it's going to be next week, next month. He has had some of the worst control of his career. And I know that Robbie Ray is by no means a control guy anyway. He has had walk issues his whole career, walk and home run issues. Now draws a Rays lineup that definitely has potent righties that could be able to hit him. More or less a bullpen day for Tampa. They're going to open up with Honeywell. Might be Kittredge after him. But I really like Tampa first 5. I don't want to bet Tampa for full game. Primarily because I don't want to bet Tampa full game, primarily because their entire bullpen's injured. I mean, if you look up and down, they're basically all their top bullpen arms are on the DL. So this is a scary team once the game gets into the pens for the Rays, or the true pens, if you will. They're going to have some guys that eat innings, like Kittredge will probably eat a few innings. Honeywell might be able to eat a few innings for him. But I mean, I'm talking the back end of their pen when they're trying to close out a game. But I do really like, so I'll type that in for you guys here. So it should be, let me see what the current market is, because I know I gave it out at a much better number earlier today. I'm seeing it minus 125. So I would assume you can get Rays first 5 minus 125. Let me see though. Hold on. I'm on BetMGM as well. So let me see what that current number is. Looks like 130 now. Yeah, it looks like 125. Okay. So yeah, we'll make Rays. Let me type this out. Rays first 5, minus 125. I got that BetMGM in New Jersey. Well, not got that, I bet it earlier, but so you could get a little ballsy too, lay the half run. I just think the Rays sticks, gets to Toronto. Now I know that Toronto's obviously got a lot of healthy sticks at the top of their lineup, and Vlad Guerrero's having a borderline MVP start to the year. But a lot of these guys besides him are really cold with their sticks. So you look up and down this lineup, just a bunch of cold sticks. And I know that yesterday they got to what's his name, the big ace for Tampa. Kind of having a brain fart. But like, I mean, how much do you make of it? I mean, he has a 4-inning little implosion with Semien hit a 3-run homer. I mean, a pitcher's allowed to make a bad pitch now and again. But overall, I do think that Tampa plays better with the sticks today against a lefty, and they can platoon up and down as they go with the true bullpen day from them. So again, Rays first 5 money line -125. If you want to get ballsy, lay the half run, get dog money. But that's going to be my bet. Glasnow, IWD, good call. So Tyler Glasnow, that was an interesting start from him, right? I mean, where did that come from? He gave up 4 and struck out 4 in the first inning. I mean, that's got to be rare. Okay, let's get back to it. So where were we? We were on Tampa. Okay, so Oakland Orioles. Athletics Orioles. At this point, how good do the drugs have to be for you to want to step in front of this Oakland team? I mean, what are we talking, 12 or 13 wins in a row for Oakland? Am I got that right? I mean, look, I'm not saying you can't bet the Orioles. I'm just saying the drugs have to be really good at this point for you to wanting to bet the Orioles. Yeah, sure, Oakland's due for a loss, I guess, but I mean, if you've been thinking Oakland's been due for a loss for the last 6-7 games, that hasn't been good for you. And if you want to try to jump on now and think they're due for a loss, maybe it could happen today, of course. Bassett hasn't been that great. Maybe he was smoking mirrors last year. So he certainly hasn't been as good, but to start this year, and Wade LeBlanc, was he going to hit Oakland with his 82-mile-an-hour fastballs, and 65-mile-an-hour changeups? A guy like him could keep a team like Oakland off balance, but ton of big righty sticks from Oakland. It'd be hard to envision them not doing enough today, especially with the first 5 or their team total. Now, if Bassett has a bit of an implosion today, then sure, Oakland will likely lose their first game in a while. But I think you'd be crazy to kind of jump in front of this Oakland team right now. If you don't, there's a lot of games you can bet today. If you really want to get like a fade the public type of game, I don't know if this is the one you really want to do it with. I assume Oakland's going to be quite a trendy play today, but you'd be crazy to want to jump in front of this team against them right now. Okay, so that brings us to the White Sox and the Rangers. Dallas Keuchel, Kyle Gibson. Kyle Gibson, what is there to say? This dude's been really good this year. We know he doesn't have any like crazy heat. He throws a few different pitches, but he's been refreshingly good this year. And Dallas Keuchel, he draws a good matchup here in Texas. Texas's biggest bats are from the left side. And so, maybe he can neutralize them. But in this one, I mean, call me crazy. I like it under as a strong lean. Keuchel should be able to limit their bats. And Kyle Gibson's been so good. Now, granted, the White Sox can go off on anybody, but the White Sox are much better versus lefties. And like I said, look, there's not much. Kyle Gibson's been like surprisingly very good. So you're talking a spot I lean for this game. I lean the under. I'm seeing 7.5. Seeing 8 at still some spots. I mean, that would be my lean. In that one, you could maybe even go as far to lean the White Sox under their team total, which is probably going to be 4.5-ish or 4. Probably dog money at 4. That would be my spot for that game. Diamondbacks Braves. So the Diamondbacks got us a nice win yesterday with the over 3.5 from the video. The thing still remains true with this Braves team. They don't have a good bullpen. Like, I know that on paper they might, but man, these guys haven't been playing well at all. It's a tough. It's tough to feel comfortable with a lead if you're the Braves late these days because, and look, the bullpen almost gave it up yesterday, right? The bullpen helped us out. I mean, Inuwa pitched really well, all things considered, and he gave up the 2-run blast, which was helpful. But overall, he pitched pretty well. I think the Diamondbacks didn't do themselves any favors, though. They weren't as patient as they've been at the plate, but either way, they still got over that small number. Bumgarner's been an absolute gas can. I think everybody knows this at this point. It's probably why Atlanta's got this super juiced line. Bumgarner finally throws a good start in his last one, but now does he kind of regress back to what he's been? He's been very, very bad, and Atlanta's got enough righties to really make him pay. This is a big number for this park, though, 9. I'd say some of the biggest numbers you'll see the thing with this Braves park, much like other similar National League parks like the Nationals and a few other stadiums on the East Coast, when like Philadelphia, when the weather's warm, the ball carries. But when it's not, I mean, these parks aren't all that good to hit in. So when you see a number of 9 in Atlanta with a temperature of 60, it's about as high of a total as you'll see with weather like this. Now, granted, if the weather was like 90, sure, you'd see 9.5, 10s, right? But so the ball's not going to carry a whole lot in this ballpark. But look, 2 below average lefties. I mean, if you're a Drew Smiley guy, I mean, Smiley gets Ks, but he definitely makes his fair share of mistakes. This is a tough Diamondbacks lineup to like, though. I mean, they have a bunch of injuries. Again, this was another game yesterday where they got guys. They ended up getting guys on base, and they found a few key timed hits. So if you wanted, you can go right back to the well. Diamondbacks over their team total. It's probably 3.5 again. This total's 9. They're minus 200. It's probably about that. 3.5. I'd have to confirm. But if it's 3.5, to me, you can go right back to that well. Because again, I'm not a Drew Smiley guy, and I don't want to pick, again, much like the video, I don't want to pick what the Braves offense does or doesn't do. But yeah, to me, there's nothing wrong with going right back to Arizona. I'm personally likely not going to be on unless I see a little more steam, where that line gets a little more favorable at 3.5. But I'll likely avoid this game entirely. Okay, so Phillies Rockies, Antonio Senzatella, Aaron Nola get to pitch in the cold Rockies Coors Field. It'll be about 45-degree game time temperature. That's chilly, right? I mean, I don't need to tell anybody that. Ball clearly is not going to carry as much as it normally would in Coors. But, Aaron Nola's still a good arm. Senzatella, I mean, he's had some bright spots over the last year or two, but nothing definitely that scares you about him. And Philly's got a bunch of lefties that should be able to find some wiggle room. But overall, for me, I personally would lean this under the number, specifically for the first 5. I think you should be able to get a number of 5.5, probably at extra vig. Again, not a spot I love, not a spot I'm going to be betting unless the number moves a little bit further. Look, this Rockies lineup's kind of cheeks, if you will, and Philly's been Jekyll and Hyde. Now, they've been scoring, though, which I guess could scare you a bit. I mean, they've scored like 4-something runs in the last 3 games, and they scored a little bit yesterday. And this team's not doing a whole lot of runners in scoring position, though, despite how well they've been hitting, especially for the season. But again, Philly's much like the Yankees, a team with a bunch of bats that gets hot and cold, and they're on the right field. They're just not the right temperature for the ball to carry in Coors. But again, lean under first 5. It'd be probably 5.5. Don't love it, though. Okay, Giants Marlins. My boy Pablo Lopez, Kevin Gausman. I might argue both my boys. I like these guys. Total of 7 here. Now, this is probably a good segue into talking about value and how you can try to extract it and not extract it. So this number 7, which is, I'm not going to say as low as the total you'll see at San Francisco. You'll probably see 6.5s, and even during the Tim Lincecum days, there was definitely 6s that popped at this park. And Pablo Lopez has been good, right? And Gausman's been good. But are they this good where it warrants a 7 total? I'd argue no. And again, I'm definitely a Pablo Lopez guy and more of a Gausman guy than not. But to me, if you're thinking, I'm just going to bet this game under, these 2 teams aren't hitting, you could. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you to bet the over. I'm not betting it. But look, to me, you could probably go San Francisco under their team total. Pablo Lopez has been good. The problem is the Marlins bullpen. I guess maybe if you can get like a first 5 team total under, maybe you do that for the Giants. But again, not a spot I necessarily love. These are 2 pitchers that I like to target, betting 4, and now they're going against each other. So maybe there's a little extra value on Pablo here. You can get plus 130. But then again, the Marlins aren't hitting, so it's tough to want to bet a team that's just not hitting. Did they end up losing yesterday? I know they were winning. They still ended up losing yesterday. I think they went up 3-0, right? And they still ended up losing. This team's just not hitting. So it's never fun betting a team that's not hitting. And I get it. Marlins are a bad team. So me saying, they're not hitting. Well, obviously they're a bad team. But you'll see that teams throughout the year go through streaks where they find their bats find life. And Marlins right now are not that. So it's a good draw for Gausman in this spot. But, overall, nothing I really love from this game as far as what the market's currently showing and these two guys. All right, so Dodgers-Padres, nightcap, Trevor Bauer, Blake Snell. I mean, what do we make of Blake Snell, right? He hasn't looked that great. His advanced stuff's, okay. And Bauer's, his K rate's been tremendous. So he's been nothing short of great for them. But Blake Snell, to me, I expect him to come to start off with a better oomph, if you will, with his Padres debuts. But it really hasn't been. And this series has been really good thus far. At this number, to me, remember, Dodgers are like the Yankees. You're always going to get that extra padding in one direction or the other. I mean, extra padding for the publicly marketed teams or the highly marketed teams. To me, Padres first five would be a spot I lean at this price. And this price might move a bit more in favor of the Dodgers. I'm trying to see what it is now. So it's 150 now. I'm not sure if it'll move up or down, but to me, the Padres are very live in this spot. Blake Snell, I know he hasn't pitched all that great, and Bauer's looked really good, but to me, it's one of those perfect storms with these two meeting one another, where it's a good start for Blake Snell to finally prove, what he can do for this squad. And Bauer, I don't want to say he's due for regression, but he hasn't looked as good as his surface shows, and he's been bailed out with a lot of extra strikeouts. And so overall, I do lean the Padres. We'll say first five. You can even go full game money line if you want, because I do think there's a little value on them. And if this spits back up to 150, 155, I'll likely jump in myself, plus 150, plus 155. Okay, so that wraps up the slate. It's up easy. Again, my best bet, I like the Rays today, first five versus the Blue Jays. I gave that out for Run Pure members earlier this morning, but it's moved a bit, so now it's like minus 125, minus 130, depending your book. But I still like it. I still have it favorable, not as favorable, but still favorable. Went through each game, gave you some leans as well, so hopefully you found this video helpful. And I apologize again for being about 15, 20 minutes late. That is not a normal occurrence for me, but again, sometimes life happens. You guys can catch me back tomorrow here with Holden and Joey, breaking down the slate, talking through betting angles like we did here with a little more perspective from Joey and, of course, Holden. So stay tuned for that. That'll be 12 o'clock tomorrow, barring anything late like this one. But again, guys, thanks again for hanging out. I hope you found this video helpful, informative. As always, gamble responsibly and stay safe, folks. I will catch you all tomorrow.